Welcome back to Choices. My name is Cameron Moffatt and I'm your host for this evening. Many of us have had blood work done before in the past, and if you've ever been curious as to what is actually going on in your blood, tonight we're going to have the rare opportunity to look inside the blood and actually see the different components of it, as well as perhaps even some things that shouldn't be there. So I'd like to introduce to you Maureen Fountaine tonight. Maureen is a certified dark field microscopist, as well as a Bachelor of Educator and an ontological coach.
Yes.
And a wellness coach as well, and facilitator. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So live blood analysis, what exactly is that, and how are we going to use that to do various diagnoses or assessments on somebody?
Well, first of all, we don't diagnose at all. That's an important differentiation.
Okay,
but we're there to show you what's balanced in the blood and what's unbalanced. So I'm looking for the behavior of the red and white blood cells, and as well any anomalies that exist in the platelets and the plasma of the blood. And it's all very visual, so you get to see, and it's very clear very quickly, you know, what's helping you and what may be hindering you.
So you're able to point out then, obviously, using the visuals, what is appropriate and what's inappropriate.
Absolutely.
So the person gets a very visual, clear indication of it.
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
okay.
and the power of the visual is incredible. Many people don't have a relationship with that inner part of themselves, like how many of us get to view our blood in that capacity. So what's beautiful about this is that you now feel and see what's going on. So by doing so, you're that much more interested in taking responsibility for your health. What's really beautiful too is you get to see that, you know, your symptoms that have maybe not been addressed or helped in any other way. Actually, there's some proof within the blood that says, hey, you must be tired, you must be having these experiences, or here's your asthma, or your potential for asthma, or here's your bowel, difficulty.
So in a little while we're going to break, folks, and Maureen's going to actually show us some pictures of things, of tiredness, of asthma, of etc. But before that, let's talk a little bit about who you typically see coming in. What is the typical consumer of this type of service?
Most people that come in have a mission. They're still looking for answers. They've tried a lot of other people and they've had some help, but they still don't have the optimized health that they're looking for.
Okay.
There's some unanswered questions. Some people come in because they're curious, and that's a good reason too. And with someone who's just curious with no actual condition that they're dealing with, they too become very engaged and can approach their health with a little more direction. Other people that come in are, they're just at their wits' end. They've tried many things and they're just getting nowhere, and they're very frustrated. And again, there's confirmation and affirmation with respect to what we see. So basically what I'm doing is reading between the lines.
Okay. Or between the cells.
Or between the cells, yeah. And then there's another character that comes in, and it's someone who comes for blood who's actually not there for blood. Simply they just want to be heard, they want to be listened to, and they actually need some help to speak their emotional experience. Or their emotional, they need an emotional outlet, they need somebody who can listen, and we kind of use the blood to get us there.
Okay.
But it's my job then to decipher and to work with that.
Well, before the show, we had spoken a little bit about the ontological approach you take towards blood analysis. Maybe you could expand on that for the viewers.
Well, ontology or ontological coaching is all about your way of being in the world. So the body speaks a language all of its own, the blood speaks a language all of its own. So within the blood we can see just what the stops are in terms of your emotional life and how you're living your life. Certain organs, certain things that we see in the blood will tell us or paint a picture of what is actually going on an emotional level.
Okay.
So the job as an ontological coach is to help bring voice again to those parts that are having a hard time sorting themselves out, and to help you see what's in the way, and then to give you the tools to maneuver through that. So it's very beautiful. So it's not separate from blood. I'm doing it all the time, whether people know it or not. You know, working and listening, watching, and really listening to the language that they use. So one of the things, you know, one of the beautiful things about blood analysis is that we don't diagnose. It's not our job because we're not medical practitioners. But in doing so, we can see where the weaknesses may occur in a person just because of their language. We can see how their language is actually painting a biological picture. You know, even when somebody comes in, if they're talking about my fibromyalgia, my chronic fatigue, my arthritis, already there's a real attachment to that. And what we want to do is release the need to attach to that, which opens up all kinds of opportunity to shift and to change.
Change, right.
Both biologically and emotionally. And as we do that, we also engage more with our spiritual selves, which we can't separate out.
Right, right. Typically, how long are your sessions?
The first appointment is an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I like to really, you know, spend the time, get to know the client, and really spend a lot of time getting to know their blood picture. And the second appointment is anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. So I allow for a bit of flexibility. If someone has a lot of questions, which I really encourage, I want to have time and space for that. As well as if somebody's having, you know, a little bit of an emotional breakthrough, I certainly like to be available for that and to make sure that they leave feeling supported.
Okay. So then at the end of the first session, is the person leaving with some sort of plan at that point of how to proceed further?
Absolutely.
What
So
does that look like?
So the what I provide people with is I certainly give you an outline of what I found in the blood, and I grade everything on a scale of 1 to 5 depending on how severe it is. Within that, I give you little home tests that you can do yourself to help you learn how to monitor your body. And they're very simple, but they're very helpful, and they keep you in touch with what might be upset. I have a whole section on eating and the importance of eating. I mean, I worked with cancer patients for 6 years only. That was my job. And so I really got to know what works in terms of diet. I was also a bodybuilding judge for a number of years, and I continue to work with a lot of athletes. And what's really interesting is their diets are very, very similar in terms of creating an optimal machine. So then I go on to give you kitchen cupboard remedies. So, you know, baking soda, Epsom salt baths, those sorts of things, little, you know, liver, gallbladder tonics that just come from your cupboard in your refrigerator.
Right.
I also want to link you up with the community. I want to say, you know, I know a wonderful acupuncturist that you may find as supportive as I have and others have. Or here's a lymphatic massage therapist that this will be of great value to you when you're ready. So it's not like you have to leave my office and go there, but I want to kind of lead the way a little bit and hang some lanterns so that you can find your way as you can when you're ready. There's no urgency. You know, some people think that because it's all lined up, there's this massive urgency. Well, there absolutely isn't. It's just I'm laying the planks for you to start mapping it out for yourself, and for you to lean into it when you're ready and when it feels right.
Is that where you would use your coaching skills then?
Yes,
Partly as well?
Always in some capacity,
Sure.
right? Yeah, it never leaves, whether they know I'm doing it or not. Some people who come in for blood will actually ask for further coaching or an intuitive reading or something, because I do all those things. It's a nice way to find out what they really need, what will support them the most. And just to conclude with what people go home with, I make sure that they have a list of supplements, etc., and things that will support them in getting well. I truly wish that none of us had to take anything, but that's not the truth. By supporting with some supplements that are very directed towards them, they're already saving money. They're already getting, you know, this plan actually takes the guesswork out of everything that they've been doing. Most people have, a cupboard full of things, but they don't know how to use them. I like to work from what you have, and then we go from there. So if you already have something that you're using, I'm going to show you how to use it. or maybe it's not necessary right now, and maybe it just needs to be on the back shelf for a little while. I'm really user-friendly in terms of not emptying your pocketbook. Let's work with what we have, capitalize on that, and grow ourselves from there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I did forget to mention in the introduction that you're a master herbalist.
I am so, yes.
Hence the herbs being used, mainly Western herbs?
Yes, yes, not Chinese. That's amazing, and I wish I could learn all that too in this lifetime. But yes, I trained a long time with that. It was a real love of mine. And so I incorporate that, of course, in what I'm doing, so I'm very aware of herbs. I like using tinctures and teas a lot because I think they're very friendly to use, they're easy to use, and they're gentle yet effective. So I'm just a huge fan of that, yes.
Excellent. So we're going to take a break now, folks. We're going to get set up, and we're going to have a chance to look at some actual pictures of some of the things we've been discussing so far.
Beautiful.
Okay?
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back. Before the show, Maureen was kind enough to spare us, or those of you at home that are maybe perhaps queasy with the sight of blood, she did take some of my blood, and we're going to be looking a little bit in a moment at some live blood as well as dried blood. And I guess there's a difference between how you use those two. So initially we're going to start off with a live blood analysis, and Maureen's going to start off with a couple of examples of some pretty extreme cases, and then we'll hopefully work down the scale and we'll see the difference of what is healthy blood. Or better blood. Okay. So let's start off with what we have here. Maybe you can explain this for us.
Okay, so this is what your blood looks like when it comes up on the screen. I'm looking for the blood to be nice and round, just like this one here, and bouncing around independent of each other. What we don't want is the blood overlapping or congregating. So aggregation, we don't want rouleau, which is where everything stacks up. So again, there should be a natural repulsion. They should not be sticking. I sort of equate it to, forgetting to put a dryer sheet in the dryer, everything starts sticking. So we don't want that because that's not advantageous for you.
Okay, now excuse me for a second, what does that mean to you when you see everything stuck together, the aggregation? What do you as a...
Well, one of the really, and I just taught a 5-day blood course, so you have to make sure you're on the right part of the slide. So there's a zone of aggregation and there's a zone of lysis. Those two don't count. So if you don't come to see me, you want to know that your practitioner really understands how to navigate a sample, because it will naturally rouleau in certain areas on the side. But if you do rouleau, I know that maybe you didn't drink enough water, that you may have a constipation issue, and certainly you have what we call nationalization, where everything is clumping together like it's a team, but for the wrong reasons, right? So so that would be one of the things that I look for. So just to get back to this, so these are the red blood cells here. The background here is the plasma of the blood, and I want that as clean and black as possible. So the more that's landing in the plasma, the more we have to work with. So as you can see here, there are numbers of things. So for example, this bright dot here is undigested protein, fats, salts, and sugars. So it deposits in the background. The more of that you have, the more tendency, again, we're not diagnosing, but the more tendency you have towards things like high blood pressure, which is, stress on the kidney and the heart, and high cholesterol. So we want to see what your tendencies are so that we can pull back that kind of pressure on the system.
Sure.
The shape and the size of the cells tells us all kinds of things about how things are operating. So you can see here we have numbers of teardrop cells. Dr. Robert O. Young, he's very well known for his work with live blood. He does a different application than I do, but he says this is one of the first indicators of acid in the system. The way that from my teaching, which is similar but different, just a little different perspective, we know this to be protein linkage, which is saying you're having difficulty digesting your proteins, which is also an indicator of stress on the liver. Now, interestingly, if someone is a coffee drinker, which upsets the hormones in the body and also very much upsets the liver, or if a woman is on her cycle, we can see the hormonal imbalance as per this indication as well. So it can be a number of different things. primarily what we do know for sure, which is conclusive with all of us that do blood, is that the situation in here is more acidic than otherwise. Also within the background, as far as the blood cell shapes go, you can see an elliptocyte there or an ovocyte. So in people that produce a lot of that within their blood profile, I know that they're likely very deficient in B12 folic acid. Their muscles probably really hurt. So this is often seen in people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and people that run a little lower mood than they might like otherwise. So that little bit of maybe depression or lethargy, and again, it will, everyone's experience or the degree of their experience will vary. So simple solutions again to, I carry something called B12 patches, which are unique, and they're known to be the next best thing to shots, for example. Again, I'm just going by the research that has been presented to me, but they work really well for people.
Okay.
I'm very interested in getting your mood better. I'm very interested in helping you navigate through the dreary winter rainy months, which really affects some people.
Yes, it
so
does.
Brain health is a big part of what I do, and that's where the coaching is very handy for helping navigate there. But I also have a very keen interest in helping you support yourself biologically in terms of helping that brain health.
Wonderful, okay.
We also get all these little, I call these the dust bunnies in the blood.
Yeah,
Some people will interpret that as yeast. In dark field microscopy, we don't talk about yeast a whole bunch because according to Dr. Enderlein, we can't see candida or candidiasis in the blood. That can only be observed in corpses. So the argument will ensue. There's no doubt about that. What I do know from this picture is that we have platelets that are sticking together. So there's platelet aggregation. That starts to form what is called what is a small clot. So, and then it starts to collect garbage, and then it just becomes like that dust bunny under your couch, which, it's this big, and you come back 3 days later and it's significantly better. We really want to break this up. With this picture alone here, there are several indicators of perhaps a lower functioning thyroid, which is, we're looking at the teardrop cells, we're looking at the elliptocytes or the ovocytes, we're looking at the undigested fats here, which are also indicators. And there are several other indicators, but I would be heads up with respect to discussing some ways to test that, or for the client to test themselves and to sort of get some baseline numbers from just taking our own temperature.
So you're speaking about testing the thyroid first thing in the morning, thyroid function?
Yeah, just using a thermometer under the arm. That's just one of the little home tests I give you. And again, that's reading between the lines. You have to be in significant distress before it shows up medically, and thank heaven they can help us out there.
Right.
But there's a lot we can do before it ever reaches that noise level.
Right.
So, for example, if we have a lot of undigested fat in the cell, in the picture, we know that the thermostat is off. We don't have enough heat to break things down. That can be one of the reasons. One of the other reasons might be that enzymatically you're a bit deficient. So a blood type A, for example, is frequently very deficient in hydrochloric acid, so digesting certain things becomes difficult. So I'm putting all those pieces of the picture together to represent what is the profile of your blood. So it's not just one thing, it's a lot of different things.
Years of training.
And years, just a few years,
Now, can you tell the person's blood type?
There's another little test I do, just mixing the blood with some serums. I can tell them whether they're an O, an A, a B, or an AB. I don't do the positive or negative. I leave that in the hands of the medical, and that's for blood exchange, and that's not our purpose. This is only to see what kind of a character are you as a blood type A, so I know I'm working with a more sensitive system, a more sensitive individual. O's are different. They're the primal blood type. They're the meat eaters. The protein and oil machines. I want to honor that. So I take that into the whole picture. It will help me make some decisions in terms of, do we want maitake mushroom as a therapy for them, or do we want reishi? So I take that all into consideration. The blood type diet is a lovely guideline. I'm very eclectic in what I do, however, so I don't be, discouraged or encouraged by that. I use parts of many things.
When you speak of the blood diet, are you speaking of Eat Right for Your Blood Type?
Yeah, Dr. D'Adamo's work, which is brilliant work if you understand it. People
it's a
really
guideline.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I basically all the choices I make and all the years of experience I have, I allow the blood to direct me, not just because somebody said. So I heard the blood type diet was great like many, many years ago, and I started to watch how blood changed if we changed the foods that were specific for the blood type. So I have my primary list for people that I want them to follow, and then we apply the blood type list against my list. So my list is first, and then we get to play with the recommendations within the blood type from there. It's amazing how much improvement people get just from doing that. If they never took another supplement, they're already way better. They stop hurting, they sleep better, they can breathe better, their mood is better just by
So food is medicine.
Food is medicine. So 80% of what you're going to be doing is the food therapy, and the other 20% is the other things that we do.
For those of you that have been watching Choices now for a number of months, you'll keep hearing over and over again how much food really is a factor in your health and the choices we make. So Maureen is just pointing that out again for us, that what you choose to eat has a big bearing on how you feel, both physically and psychologically.
Absolutely, all day long.
Do you have anything else you can show us?
Well, I do. Let me just conclude here that this person here, because this is the perfect environment to grow fungal material, okay? So again, we're not calling it anything, but this person often will have a lot of sinus issues. So they'll also have, maybe some congestion in their lungs, and they'll have a lot of indicators of, or a lot of the symptoms that go along with fungal overgrowth.
Okay.
Often we'll see microbial overgrowth in comparison to this, and I can show you one of those pictures if you like.
So what would somebody, how would somebody know if they were having a fungal overgrowth on the outside of the body? Is there any obvious signs?
Well, pretty obvious, first of all, will be, the nails. So toenails, fingernails. Some people get skin issues, a lot of nasal drip, sinus infections, just a lot of upset in the belly, a lot of bloating, gas, distension in the belly. Those would be the primary ones.
Okay, so folks, if anybody's experiencing any of that, perhaps you're dealing with a fungal infection. Okay, all right, what's next?
Okay, so let me just find the next. We want to look at that live blood sample for no more than 30 minutes until it starts to degrade. Lots of people's blood is really strong, so it will last longer. The blood should last under the slide up to 72 hours. So we have a lot of wiggle room. So I take a sample that we're going to view, I take another sample that I look at after, then I do the dry blood sample as well, and so I'm looking at the culturing aspect. So this person whose blood is here now, and I do have her permission to use it, here she's very, very ill, and the blood actually presented beautifully. It was like amazing, and it was hard to believe that she was as sick as she was.
Okay.
After she left the office, I was really quite curious about what I might see, so I popped the slide under the microscope again, and it absolutely just burst open, like on its own. I didn't do anything to encourage that. But you can see all these pleomorphic life forms in the blood. Pleomorphism is just meaning that the blood takes on many shapes, or the microbes that live naturally and intrinsically in us take on many different sizes and shapes depending on the milieu, which is the environment.
Okay.
It's just like your basement doesn't get silverfish if it's dry, and right, it only if it's damp. So conditions.
So this person, now we're almost running out of time, so we're going to have to finish off, but this is an example of somebody who was not doing very well then.
Exactly.
And we'll have this up on the show, folks, so you'll have a closer look at it. We could go on for another whole show on this, and maybe we'll have to later on.
It's extensive, yeah.
It is extensive, and I guess the ability then to see what potentially is going on with somebody is profound.
It's quite amazing. Again, in the course I just taught, it was wonderful to see their mouths open a lot in terms of what they could see. even without knowing a lot, like, you know, it's just a whole universe in there that is vast.
Perfect. Maureen, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and hopefully folks, you have some value in what you've heard and seen, and again, some choices in how you can approach your health. On our next show coming up, we have a naturopath coming in who will be discussing a very unique approach to dealing with autism in children, and that will be on our next show. So thank you very much on behalf of all the crew here at Shaw. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next time, and stay healthy. Maureen, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.